Hi everyone, welcome to Korean Express YouTube channel. In this video, we'll cover the Korean counters for days, weeks, months and years. So, without wasting any time, let's begin. Now before we start, I would like to tell you one thing, that if you are not familiar with the Korean counters or how to use them in sentences, then this video is perfect for you, because in this video I introduced you all to the concept of counters in Korean language. Okay. Additionally, I have already covered counters for time, that is for hours, minutes and seconds, in this another video. So if you don't know how to use counters in a sentence and what are the Korean counters for different units of time, then you can go and watch these two videos. I'm going to share the link of these videos in the description also. Okay. Alright. Now before we begin, here is a very basic simple definition of a counter. A counter is a very specific unit that is used with numbers to indicate or specify the category or type of object that is being counted. Okay. So for example, you are counting some objects. Here object, it comprises of both living and non-living things. Okay, remember this. Now suppose you are counting certain objects, then with the kind, with the category of that particular object you are counting, you have to attach a particular counter word with the number of object. For example, there are 5 bottles and 2 glasses. So you have to use a particular counter with the respective number of objects. Okay. I'm not going to go into detail because we have already discussed about this in my video in which I introduced you all to the counters in Korean language. Okay. For now, just keep in mind that जब भी आप कोई चीज़ count करते हैं तो जितनी उसकी counting है, the number, उसके साथ आप एक particular word attach करते हैं. Very simple. Okay. Now let's talk about counters for days, weeks, months and years in the Korean language. Alright, now let's start with the counter for days. So the Korean counter used for days is il. Il. Very simple. Now we know that there are two kinds of number system in Korean, Sino-Korean number system and pure Korean number system. So when you are counting days in Korean language, you always use the Sino-Korean numbers. Okay. And how we use them in a sentence with the counter il, Sino-Korean numbers, they get combined with il to denote the number of days. So if you are counting a number of days in Korean language, then you have to combine the Sino-Korean numbers with il. Okay. Now remember one thing, that il, it is never used alone when we are talking about days. It is always combined with a number. ये एक stand alone word की तरह use नहीं होता है when you are talking about days in Korean language. Okay. Why? Because if we use il as a standalone word, then it will have different meanings. For example, it will mean work, or it can also mean the number 1 in the Sino-Korean number system. Okay. So therefore remember this, that you are not going to use il as a standalone word for days. It is always used as a counter and therefore it is combined with a number. Okay. Now let's look at these two examples to understand the concept of using the counter il more clearly. First example is, I went to the park for 3 days. So in Korean, there are two ways to write this sentence. One is to use the numeral 3 and another one is to write the word, the Sino-Korean number in words, that is sum. Okay. See, they are pronounced this in the same way. This one, the numeral 1, is also pronounced as sam il, and the word that is written in the sentence, it is also pronounced as sam il, but the written form is different. And there is one more difference. When you use the numeral form in a sentence, when you use the number, then there is no space between the number and the counter. And when you use the word sum or any other word for a Sino-Korean number, then there has to be a space between the word and the counter. Okay, remember this difference. And both of these forms, they are correct. You just need to remember that there are two ways to write this sentence in Korean. You can use the number or you can use the word for that number. So, in Korean, it is going to be 저는 3일 동안 공원에 갔어요. Here, 동안 is a Korean word that is used to indicate for or during a period of time. Okay, so here it is a time for 3 days. Duration kitna hai? 3 days. So to denote that for, to denote the duration, what we have to use? We have to use the word 동간. Okay, 동간 का ये usage होता है Korean sentences में. So I went to the park for 3 days. I is 저는, for 3 days is 3일 동안, and park is 공원, and to go is 가다. In the past tense it is 갔어요. Okay, similarly you can write this sentence in this form. The pronunciation is same. 저는 3일 동안 공원에 갔어요. Okay, this is how it works. Next example is I will be in Japan for 5 days. Again, there are two ways to write this sentence. 저는 5일 동안 일본에 있을 거예요. And the another way is to write the word form. 저는 5일 동안 일본에 있을 거예요. Okay, sentences mean the same. Only difference is in this, the number or the word, which one you want to use. Okay, alright. Now let's move ahead and look at this very, very important note. There are also some specific words that are used for 1, 2, 3, 4 and 10 days in Korean. Okay, these are used more commonly, more usually as compared to the general way of telling days in Korean. Okay, general way kya hai? For 1 day, if you look at the pattern, you are going to say il. Il stands for 1 in Sino-Korean number, and day also stands for 1. Il. But the more common way to say 1 day in Korean is haru. Okay, this is what I mean. For 2 days, itil. 3 days, sahil. 4 days, nahil. 10 days, yorhil. Okay, these are some words that are used for 1, 2, 3, 4 and 10 days in Korean language, along with the general format, okay, in which we use the counter il with the Sino-Korean number. That is also acceptable, but these are the more usually commonly used form for these phrases. Okay, alright, now let's look at the examples to understand this more clearly. For example, you have to say I slept for 1 day. 저는 하루 동안 잤어요. 하루 stands for 1 day, and for 1 day is 하루 동안. 동안 is used to indicate for in Korean. Okay, now look at this next example. I didn't have dinner for 3 days. Now 3 days, we just saw the word for 3 days is sahil. So in Korean it is going to be 저는 4일 동안 저녁 식사를 안 먹었어요. 저는 is I, 4일 동안 is for 3 days, for a period of 3 days to be precise. Dinner is 저녁 식사, and to eat is 먹다, in past tense 먹었어요. And to negate this sentence, we have used 안, didn't have, 안 먹었어요. Okay, alright, so this is how you use these words for 1, 2, 3, 4 and 10 days in Korean sentences. Okay, now let's move ahead and look at this another note which is very, very important. There is another word for day, and that is 날. Okay, 날 is also the Korean word for day. Now what is the difference between il and 날? 날 is not used as a counter word. but it is a stand-alone word when you are talking about a specific day. This is the difference between il and nal. Il is a counter word and it cannot be used as a stand-alone word, whereas nal is a stand-alone word and it is used when we are talking about a specific day. Okay, for example, you have to say, I went to the museum on that day. Now you are mentioning a specific day in this sentence. So in Korean it is going to be 저는 그날에 박물관에 갔어요. I is 저는, that is 그, 날 is day. So that day. Museum is 박물관 and to go is 가다 in past tense 갔어요. Alright. Next example is I will meet my friend on that day. So the subject in the sentence is talking about a particular day in the future when he or she is going to meet his or her friend. So in Korean it is going to be 저는 그날에 친구를 만날 거예요. Okay, here also we have used 그날 to denote that day in Korean. Alright, so it is very easy for us to understand how to use il and nal in a sentence. What are the differences between them? Okay, so this was all about days. Now let's talk about weeks. So what is the counter for weeks in Korean? The counter that is used for weeks is chu. Very simple. Here also Sino-Korean numbers are used when you are counting weeks, just as we saw while counting days. Okay, so what happens is Sino-Korean numbers, they get combined with chu to denote the number of weeks in Korean. Very simple. Now chul is also a word that can be used as a counter for weeks, but it is not that common. Chu is the commonly used counter for weeks. Chul is also a counter, remember this. Okay, alright, now let's look at the examples to understand more clearly. I will go to America for 2 weeks. Now again there are two ways to write this sentence. We just discussed it while talking about days. You can use either the numeral form or you can use the word form. When you are using the number, no space between the number and the counter. When you are using the word, there has to be a space between the number and the counter. So there are two ways, both of them mean the same, written differently, but they are read in the same way. You have to read them in the same way. Written form alag hai. Alright, 저는 2주 동안 미국에 갈 거예요. Okay, this one is also pronounced the same way. 저는 2주 동안 미국에 갈 거예요. Fine, this is how you frame this Korean sentence. Next example is I didn't meet my friend for 3 weeks. Now here you are going to say 저는 3주 동안 친구를 안 만났어요. Very simple now. You just need to know the concept. You need to know how to frame sentences and how to use the counter with the appropriate number in the proper way. Okay, so here for 3 weeks is 3주 동안. Very simple. Alright, now let's move ahead and talk about the counter for months. Now there are two counters for months in Korean. One is 달 and the another one is 개월. Now what is the difference? Pure Korean numbers are used when counting months with 달. When you are using 달 as a counter for months, then you have to use pure Korean numbers with it. And in case of 개월, you have to use Sino-Korean numbers while counting months. Okay, this is the difference between them. 달 के साथ pure Korean number use करना है, केवल के साथ Sino-Korean number use करना है. Okay, now let's look at this example sentence. I studied English for 2 months. Now, here I have used keyword as a counter for months. And we know that while using keyword, you have to use the Sino-Korean number. And there are two ways to write the Sino-Korean number. Either you can use the numeral form or the word form. Same rules are applied. 저는 2개월 동안 영어를 공부했어요. 공부하다 is the Korean word for to study. Okay, it's the verb to study. And in the past tense, 공부했어요. And for English, Korean word is 영어. Okay, so this is how you use keyword in a sentence to count months. 2 ways: number, word. Alright, now if you're using dal, you have to use the pure number, pure Korean number. Okay, so it is going to be 저는 2달 동안 영어를 공부했어요. Here for 2, I have used the pure Korean number 둘. Now you might be thinking कि pure Korean number 2 के लिए तो थुल, हना थुल से थुल होता है, तो यहाँ से थुई कैसे बचा? Now there are some rules while counting objects and using pure Korean numbers for them. These rules I have explained in the introduction video of Korean counters. Okay, again you can go and watch that video if you want to know that. So here for 2 months is 2달 동안. Okay, alright. Now the last one, Korean counter used for years, and that is 년. 년. Very simple. Again, you have to use Sino-Korean numbers with it when counting years. The numbers, they get combined with 년 to denote the number of years. Okay, let's look at the examples. First one is, I lived in India for 5 years. 2 ways to write this sentence. 저는 5년 동안 인도에 살았어요. Okay, very easy. India is Indo and to live is 살다. Past tense 살았어요. And for 5 years, 5년 동안. Okay, I played baseball for 1 year. 저는 1년 동안 야구를 했어요. Here, for 1 year is 1년 동안. Baseball is 야구. And to play is 하다. So to play baseball is 야구를 하다. In past tense, 야구를 했어요. Okay? So this is how you use the Korean counter for years in a Korean sentence. Alright? Okay, so in this video, we learned how to count days, weeks, months and years in Korean language. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe Korean Express YouTube channel. Thank you.